Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. We are here with your top stories of the day. Glenn, what is yours?
I just want to spend a little additional time on the Muslim brides.
They're precious.
They are. Really 7 brides for 7 Mohammeds.
Is this a new Bachelor
show? It is.
Stu.
Well, Sarah, I was concerned in previous conversations we've had that you may not understand socialism. You seem to be negative about it. So I have to present to you from the Washington Post the 5 myths of socialism.
From the Washington Post?
Yeah, so they'll let you know.
The New York Times has their own version out, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, good.
It's great.
Good. Jason?
A little Twitter trigger that hit me last night. But it's the reason why the youth now is thinking that socialism is okay now. And various people within our own government that are actively trying to rewrite history.
I feel like you have a lot of Twitter triggers, and maybe you should just take an anger management class.
Or maybe not be on Twitter.
Or just start screaming, Allah Akbar!
All right, a lot to get into, but first we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing.
American Financing is the place to go if you are looking for a refi, if you are looking for a loan for a new house. Now is the time to buy a new house. Please do not buy more of a house than you should have. I speak from experience, but make sure that you are doing everything you can to get a locked-in rate at these low interest rates right now. The people I trust are American Financing. It's a family-owned business, been in business for a very long time, I don't know, 20, 30 years, and they actually care about the customer. They're not in it to make kickbacks from the banks. They don't take any of those kickbacks. That's what sets them apart. They work for you at American Financing. You can find them at 800-906-2440 or AmericanFinancing.net.
Glenn, the Muslim brides, the ISIS brides.
They're love
so
them.
Innocent. So innocent.
They're so innocent.
Sweet.
Well, they're misguided. You know, who didn't make a mistake when you were 19 years old?
That's true.
We all did.
Yeah, that's true.
And some of their mistakes are maybe a little bigger than, the mistakes I made, and I made some whoppers. But I never really called for, beheading people, going to a Veterans Day parade and shooting everybody or driving a truck into the crowd.
Never?
Never. You didn't?
Not once.
Are you sure?
Not once. Well,
I mean, look, I didn't see every one of your tweets back then in the day, but I just can't believe.
Right. Okay. I mean, this is not an error of judgment. Today, there's new video from NBC News of this sweet American girl who just wants to go home and out to Alabama. Sweet home Alabama, dare I say. And she said, it was just a phase. It was just a phase. Watch.
A lot of people are going to find that hard to believe after some of the tweets that you put out.
I know that, but it was an ideology that really was just a phase.
There's one tweet in particular where you talk about calling on Americans to do drive-by shootings, to rent a truck and drive over people, spilling their blood, and you say Memorial Day, Veterans Day, go out and do it.
Again, my lawyer told me not to speak about these things.
Who? My mom?
My mother or my lawyer?
Okay.
It's a good advice, but whoever it was.
Whoever it was.
You really should not talk about those things.
Right. That same person, if it was your mom, should have said that you shouldn't tweet those things either. Look, the first thing, as Jason knows, the first thing that these people did was go over to a foreign country and burn their passports, right?
Yep.
So they denounce their citizenship. Then they take up arms against us. They were fighting the U.S. as well. So they take arms against us. If a wife of an Islamic fighter, if that's not the epitome of comfort and aid to your enemies, I don't know what is. She was vicious all the way along, as we lined up on the show just a few minutes ago. If you missed it, watch the Glenn Beck program on the BlazeTV. But we lined it all up. This is someone who, according to the Constitution, the only law that is mentioned in the Constitution with a penalty is treason. We have enough witnesses for her on treason. Treason's very hard to prove. You have to have 3 or 4 witnesses, I think. Well, we got millions of witnesses. We know exactly what she did because she broadcast it and she also put it all out on Twitter. The penalty is death. Not, hey, come on back and we forgive you. Don't worry about it. You worked against the United States in the most evil and heinous ways. It's as if an American citizen saw what was happening in Auschwitz, saw it, saw the ovens, saw everything, and then said, you know what, I'm going to go over there and give comfort to those guys. We would not welcome them back if they said, oh, you know what, it was just a phase. This whole extermination of the Jews thing, it was just a phase I was going through. No way.
I have no sympathy for these women at all. And there's a big clarification to make when it seems like some of these women are getting clumped in with all of the women that got caught in the caliphate. So that I know a man right now that is with a group that is caring for a lot of these women. The problem is it's very, very hard for them to tell who were the victims and who. I think 2 weeks ago they had it was like 5 to 10 suicide vest bombings from some of these women because they're charging straight at the caregivers and just blowing themselves up.
Well, I know how to tell who the good ones are.
They don't have a suicide vest on.
Let me make this announcement. I was going to make it on radio tomorrow. Last night or the night before, Mercury One, the Nazarene Fund, was alerted of 50 slaves that had been captured, Christian and Yazidi women who had been captured and were being kept by the ISIS brothers. And our team went in and we rescued and now have 21 of those girls. We got them out of captivity just last night.
Wow.
So amazing. And there's so many other. That's what really kills me is a lot of people don't even talk about that. I've seen a lot of conversation on, when's this government going to do this? When's this government going to do that? And in the absence of all of the inaction and then really not knowing what to do, there's groups like Mercury One, there's organizations like the Nazarene Fund and others that are out there just saying, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of these people. But back to what I was saying is I have no sympathy for her. Like you said, she gave up her citizenship. She's not a citizen of the United States. I've heard other people say, yeah, she's a citizen. I think she actually said, yes, I'm a citizen. No, you're not. You gave up your citizenship. You gave up that right. You engaged in horrible, horrible things, yes, against our government, but the people that they hurt the most were the ones right there in those countries. They committed crimes in Syria. They committed crimes in Iraq. That's all for the Iraqi and Syrian people to deal with, as far as I'm concerned now.
But I want to point out that we do not bring her back because she has violated the one. There's only one in the Constitution, and it is treason. And she has committed treason against the United States. It's when you go against your country, especially at a time of war, and you give aid and comfort to our enemies. She left, denounced her citizenship, joined them, told people to kill us in the streets here. Where are you, cowardly Americans? Stand up, kill them, slaughter them. That is treason.
I think we're all mostly on the same page here. However, I think there's a distinction that I'm wondering because you keep saying it's treason and you keep saying she's not a citizen. So
no, she was a citizen.
Right. So do you bring her back and try her for treason, or you leave her over there?
No, I'm
one
fine
of the two,
leaving her right over there.
So
let the
you don't think this constitutional provision should be enacted here? They should not try her for this crime that's outlined in the Constitution. Yes, I'm just being belligerent for the fun of it.
I have no problem doing that. Why bog down the system? She'll be dead over there. Yeah. I mean, the Syrian people are not going to take kindly to these ISIS brides.
And it's not going to be Syria, but it's not going to be Syria, right? Even though, because Syria is they're not going to give them to the Assad regime, right?
Well, I will tell you that we do work with the police force. I don't know what they call it over in Iraq, and those guys beg us to give them. If we get the slaves out, they beg us. Can you give us the address? Can you give us the address now? I mean, and they won't make it to trial.
Because she's not really a citizen of anything, right? If she denounced her citizenship here, she doesn't become a citizen of wherever she is. She's not a Syrian citizen or an Iraqi
She may
citizen.
be, isn't her dad the counsel for Yemen for the UN or something like that?
Yeah, there was some controversy on if she was ever was a citizen at all, because it was something I don't remember the specifics, but he was like a delegate. He was here on like diplomatic reasons, and his visa. He was here illegally. I think his visa was not had already expired. So technically, he wasn't even here legally. She wasn't here legally. It was very strange.
When did that stop anyway?
Right.
Stu, I want to move on to, finally, you can tell me why everything that I think about socialism is wrong.
I, along with the Washington Post, are just here to help you and help you understand these basic things that you don't apparently get. Here are the 5 myths of socialism from the Washington Post. Number 1 is socialism is a single coherent ideology. Now, at no point did any of us think it was coherent. However, their point here is that it's not a single ideology. And the way they describe this is, well, Lenin said he wanted a revolution, and Marx said the powers of history would eventually bring people to socialism. And others say, well, we should just, antagonize until we get what we want. And some people just say, you know what, let's just push for bigger programs, and over time people will like them more, and we'll eventually get to socialism. That's not a difference in ideology, it's a difference in approach. That's
right.
Progressivism versus revolution versus, this is just, it really isn't, the bottom line is socialism all includes, the end of private ownership, the means of production. Eventually, some people walk slowly down that path, some people run as fast as they can. But it's the same
point
path
of progressivism. They were Fabian socialists. And they said what set them apart was, we don't want revolution. We agree with what happened in Russia. That's the new way to do it. But we don't agree with the revolution that was bloody in the streets. We'll get there by putting piece after piece, and it will take us time, but we'll achieve the same ends.
Yep. Myth number 2, Sarah, is socialism and democracy are incompatible. See, they work well together, the Washington Post wants you to know. And it's true. Venezuela is a great example of it. A bus driver was elected president of Venezuela, and now look how wonderful that's going. The problem with this, of course, is, yes, at times they do elect their socialist dictator, who then, as soon as they get into trouble, turn into a dictator, and that's the way it ends. It may start as democracy, but it doesn't end that way.
Because the people are too stupid, or they're rising up against, and we have to stop these people for us to be able to do socialism right.
Myth number 3, Sarah, is all socialists want to abolish markets and private property. Their excuse for this one is completely laughable, which is, again, they are giving you this timeline thing. There's certain groups that have taken control, and they haven't done all of that. They haven't abolished markets and ended private property. In Europe, for example, like those. First of all, those are largely market economies with a welfare state. It is different, as Glenn's pointed out many times. That is not socialism, though it's on that road and moving that way.
And may I ask you this question? Are the socialists in Europe, in any of those states that have the welfare state, are they happy? Is it enough socialism or enough control? No.
Of course not. They always want to expand it.
Correct.
And that's why this road is there. So it doesn't always start with full abolishing of markets and private property, but even social democrats or democratic socialists very clearly say this is the goal. It's just a matter of how quickly do we get there. Next up, and this one, you probably really think Sarah, which is when socialism is tried, it collapses. Not true at all.
Really?
Yeah, now sure, you can point to 9 zillion examples, but do we have the quote, and they explain it very well in this one quote, communism certainly failed, but social democracy has arguably been the single most successful modern ideology or political movement. This is someone typed that. And it's so bonkers that it's hard to even put your arms around it.
With what examples?
Their point is, well, look at Europe. Europe has a lot of these programs, and what they try to say, they try to distinguish between democratic socialists and social democracy. Now, there is a distinction there. The words are reversed, which is a big difference.
Like the difference between national socialists and social nationalists.
Right. Which one? I mean,
one
social
is an
nationalist is
opposite.
fine.
The other one's perfectly fine.
Great point.
And the example they used was Ocasio-Cortez and Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders, who's a socialist ideologue for half a century, right? The Washington Post explains to him that what he really means is he just wants New Deal liberalism. Now, of course, Vox went to Democratic Socialists and said, hey, by the way, a lot of people are saying you guys just want New Deal liberalism, and they asked a social democrat or Democratic Socialist that, and she said, absolutely not what we want. We know that part of that is a path to get there, but what we want to do is end capitalism, end markets, end profits, blah, 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 blah. So the last one here is number 5. Socialism offers a ready-made solution to numerous current problems. Now, you'll notice that's a myth. And what I like about this is you can kind of get a translation of what they're doing. Can we get the 5 back up there again? Because this is like each one of them. Socialism is a single coherent ideology. The thing that you're scared about isn't in the one that's coming. That's what the Washington Post is telling you. It's not coherent. Look, a lot of people have socialized ideas, but that's not this one. The one that we're pushing on you, that's not going to be the same. Socialism and democracy are incompatible. You can still vote. It'll be wonderful. All socialists want to abolish markets and private property. Not these guys, not Ocasio-Cortez. She's wonderful. When socialism is tried, it collapses. No, that's not true. It works really well. It's the most successful ideology there is. And the last one is specifically, I think, for Democrats, which is socialism offers a ready-made solution to numerous current problems. What they go on to say is, if we get the socialist stuff, if they get in control, it's not going to cure climate change. It's not going to cure inequality. It's not going to cure any of these things. Just so you know, don't get your expectations up, because once this actually happens, it's not going to work.
See, I read that differently. I read number 5 as, okay, what can we say that will make us look like we're actually
trying to be fair.
Yeah. We got to throw one in.
Right.
There.
It's their one warning, I thought, to the left, right? Like, it's the one thing, hey, guy, like, it's on its surface, hey, you guys, I know you think that they're going to solve all these problems. It's not going to happen like that. But that's preparing.
Right. That's
for
preparing.
This.
It's not against it. It's just preparing people for the failure.
Yeah.
The world is insane. Back in a minute.
Well, now it's sane because now you understand the myths about socialism. Before, you didn't get it.
I didn't. Thank you for explaining.
Sarah.
Before we get back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com. Glenn, I guess you decided that it was not a good idea to just like close your eyes, blindfold yourself, and pick someone out of a phone book to be a real estate agent.
How do you pick a real estate agent?
I mean,
Internet.
Internet or your brother's, aunt's, dog's cousin.
Yeah, you just ask somebody usually, or I don't know, we bought the house from this person, right? How you do it? That's the worst thing you can do. And I had this problem when I tried to sell my house, and we didn't know how to pick a real estate agent. We ended up getting somebody that we knew, and they were like, okay, and it was not good. But we didn't know what we were doing. I started doing work with the 500 best real estate agents in the country, according to the Wall Street Journal. These are the people that sell the most houses, the volume of houses that these people sell.
How many of them have reality shows? I think like every real estate agent has a reality show.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No?
So in talking to them, I realized that there's a pattern. A, they're doing it full time. B, they've done it for a long time. C, they are very specific on the areas that they're in. They have done it so long that they know what that household sold for the last time, what the houses around sold for, what houses like that are selling for, and they have it off the top of their head. So it's no algorithm can sell it. The most important thing is they advertised the home, not them. We all go for the advertisement of the real estate agent. That's not where good real estate agents put their money. They put their money in advertising the home. So we went out and we found the best real estate agents. I think we have 2,000 of them now across the country, and they will help you sell your home. This is not a real estate company. This is just kind of like a matchmaking service. You write to realestateagentsitrust.com, say where you are. We find the real estate agent for you and pair you with them, and then they take you. You want your home sold for the most amount of money and on time. You want to buy a house, make it really easy. realestateagentsitrust.com.
All right, Jason, the Twitter trigger. Twitter trigger.
It actually makes perfect sense that we're transitioning from socialism onto this. It lines up perfectly because I was just reading a Gallup poll, I think it was from 2018 recently, about how from 18 to 29 the millennials, I guess millennials are in 18 to 29, and that young people now in the country.
These young
people nowadays.
They have a more positive view of socialism over capitalism. And you're like, how is that even possible? Like, if you have any recollection at all of just even pretty current history, that makes no sense. But if you look down the age brackets, the further you go down the line, you're like, okay, wait a minute. They're the only age bracket that shares that. Everybody else pretty much they remember the Soviet Union. They remember, everything about Cuba. They remember, they have all this connection to history. But the problem is that now you have people like Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, other people like that are using the fact, I think, that the younger generation doesn't have that connection anymore. So they can pretty much just rewrite history. And before I get into this other thing, I just want to say this is the danger of this. And I saw this quote from George Orwell, and he wrote this 6 years before he wrote 1984. This is actually the first time he said the number 2 + 2 = 5. But he said this in an essay called "Looking Back on the Spanish War." It said, "Nazi theory indeed specifically denies that such thing as the truth exists. The implied objective of this line of thought is a nightmare world in which the leader or some ruling clique controls not only the future but the past. If the leader says of such and such event, it never happened, well, it never happened. If he says that 2 and 2 are 5, well, 2 and 2 are 5. The prospect frightens me much more than bombs." Indeed.
That's where we are.
Oh, it's also, the post-fact era, right? This was something that was praised by Breitbart.
Did he say the Nazi?
Yeah, he was looking at the Nazi fascist regime when he was looking at how they were basically rewriting their own history. And
That's unbelievable. In the Nazi regime, there is no truth.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was thinking along these lines, actually. I was reading through Twitter, of course, last night. And I saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was in her own Twitter fight, and she was defending her gal pal, Ilhan Omar. And I got the first tweet up here. I think there's 3 of them. But she says, "I remember a time when it was unacceptable to question the Iraq War.
What was that?
All of Congress was wrong, including both GOP and the Democratic Party, and led my generation to disaster plus wrong war." Okay, let's skip to the next one.
Except for Barbara Lee.
She changed that. She didn't mean Iraq War. What she meant was the Afghanistan War.
She is a walking
And then the next one.
flop on her face.
They're telling me they only have 2.
Okay, so there's one after that where she says, which is almost worse, where she goes, "But we shouldn't have gotten into either war regardless, both Iraq and Afghanistan." Now, you can make the case to intelligently say that the continuing war in Afghanistan, but honestly, we shouldn't have been in either. You can make the case to intelligently say, okay, the continuing use of American troops in Afghanistan, I'll have that conversation with you. But the response to 9/11, if you were saying that we should never have responded to that, I take a ridiculous amount of offense to that because it's very personal to me. I was actually out on an exercise at the time with the Marine Corps, and our unit was the first conventional unit to land.
Is AOC saying she's in the same generation as you?
So
that's amazing.
She was 12 at the time. She was 12 years old, so I don't hold it against her that she's just ignorant over it, because a lot of people are nowadays. But now she's claiming to know something and making statements like that, in effect rewriting history, saying there was no real reason for us to be there. I really regret the fact that I missed everything going on here in the country. I've never seen the country united, I think, ever in my life. We've always been divided.
So you were fighting overseas.
Away.
I was over there, yeah. It was a completely different feeling. Everybody was laser focused on what we were doing at the time.
It was amazing.
It was. I know it was amazing here. I heard about the stories, but over there, it was like it really was. We wanted justice. We wanted revenge. We wanted to ensure over everything else that this would never happen again. And the intelligence coming in. I wish Ocasio-Cortez, if you're watching this, give me a call. I'll tell you about some of the stuff that we're looking at.
Is that a cat call? Is that what that was?
That was
a cat call.
All right, we got to take a break and reevaluate. I'll let you get back into
Unbelievable.
it.
Wow.
But sexism is not allowed on
Stop
this
hitting
program.
on her.
Let's take a break.
She's basically a sideshow Bob, like walking around and hitting another rake that pops her in the face. And she's
Twitter.
yeah.
All right, for those of you who want to listen to the rest of Jason's rant.
Oh, come on. You got to sell it better than
So
that.
in overtime, it is. It's important.
Who's going to show up for that?
Well, I
And
will.
if you haven't,
Well,
are
you're
you?
gonna leave.
If you haven't yet already signed up for Blaze TV, do so now. Don't miss it. You can use promo code NEWS and get $10 off of your annual subscription. I mean, look at what you're missing. This guy right here,
Oh, yeah.
ranting about Twitter.
Sexy Jason. Got enough Twitter fight again.
Seriously, sold. Done. You're welcome.